In yesterday's lecture, what we have started, introduction of machine design element. Okay, I will just revise. So we have understand what is machine design like. So machine design is the creation of new and better machines, improving existing one so that it is economical in the cost of production and operation. So creation, improving, and economical. These are the three major points which I have highlighted, right? Then I have given you some technical definition of the machine design. Then I have helped you to understand how the design is born. I have helped you to understand this graph. Okay. Then we have also understand what is the basic knowledge required for machine design. Okay. Then the very important part we have understand that is the classification of machine design. So adaptive design, development design, and new design we have understand. Then we have understand this with the help of the example, adaptive design, development design, and new design. Okay. Then we started with our the most important part, that is rational design, empirical design, and industrial design. Okay. So now I have helped you to understand what is rational design, what is empirical design, right? We have understand this, okay? And then I have also given you the overview of the industrial design, which is not actually covered in your syllabus, okay? There is basically a subject called as advanced design of machine elements. Basically in the MTech programs, where you will mostly focus on this industrial design, but in this year syllabus, we are focusing on the rational design and the empirical design. I hope it is clear to all of you. Okay. Okay. So now, so in the today's particular lecture, we will understand what are the basic steps involved in process of machine design. Okay. So this is a very the first important part before we go to the design. What are the steps involved in the process of machine design? Right. Okay. The first step is product specification. Right. Now, what is product specification? Then second step is synthesis. What is synthesis? It is nothing but a selection of mechanism. Then layout of configuration. Okay. Then next step is design of individual component. Okay. I will explain you this one by one in the next slides. Don't worry. But the first step which is involved in the process of machine design is nothing but the product specification. Second step is synthesis. Synthesis is nothing but a selection of mechanism. Third one is layout of configuration, and the fourth and important step is nothing but a design of individual components, right? So whenever let us you are designing a machine, rightly call it as a machine design. So the most important part is this design of individual components. Let us say there are 100 components, or you can also call it as a machine elements. What you can call it as a machine element. So whenever you are designing a machine, you have to also design the sub parts or the sub elements. That is the design of individual components. Okay, this is the fourth one, and then last and the fifth one is nothing but the preparation of drawings. Okay, so we will understand this process one by one, and now I have highlighted at the last, but this is very important. Need or aim. Okay, unless and until you recognize or specify the problem, there is no need to go for this all the steps. Okay, so first of all, you should have some aim. You should have some need. Unless and until you are having some aim or need, unless and until you are recognizing and specifying the problem, why to go for the next step? Why to go for the design? Okay, so this is your first, so this is not a this need or aim. This is not one of the step involved in the process of machine design. It's just a basic thing which is in your mind. The concept evolves in your mind, or you have some aim. There is some need which you have to identify. Okay, I hope it is clear to all of you. Okay, and then product specification we will understand. You have to specify some products. Then synthesis is nothing but a selection of mechanism. Okay, then design of individual component, that is determining the stresses and thereby the sizes of components. Okay, then modification, you have to also under see whenever you are designing something, you cannot directly get the final result. You have to continuously do some modification, and then drawing. And once this all is done, finally you will go for the production. So once the design is approved, and then it will finally go, that drawing will go to the production department, and according to the drawings, the production department will start manufacturing the product, or start manufacturing the machine element, or maybe some individual component. Okay, I hope you have understand this. Let us say one by one. Now, product specification. What is product specification? Product specification is nothing but the first step which includes or which incorporates the preparing of a list of product. Preparing a list of a product means what? Very important. It's a complete list of the product requirement like machine capacity, cost, reliability, life, etc. Okay. Then overall dimensions and weight in some cases is specified. Then external appearances, noiseless performance, and simple operation control, etc. in case of the consumer products. Okay. So product specification is the complete list of product requirement, which, for example, machine capacity, what is the cost, what is the reliability, what are the overall dimensions, what are the weights. So that all comes under the product specification, right? So you have to first of all prepare a list. Okay. Let us understand this with some example. So let us say you have to design this scooter, okay, or this moped bike, right? Now, basically, for designing the scooter, obviously this scooter will be not manufactured directly. Okay, it has to undergo the design process step. So the first step, let us say, what is product specification? So what are the product specification you have to prepare while designing this particular scooter? Let us say fuel consumption first of all. So let us say you have to decide that your bike or your scooter should give 40 kilometers per liter. Then maximum speed 85 kilometers per hour. Carrying capacity 2 persons with 10 kg luggage. Let us say overall dimension, what is the weight, what is the length, and what is the most important cost. So your cost is, let us say, up to the 80,000. So this is called as a preparing the list of a product requirement. So once you identify the need, and then once you prepare a complete list, you can go for the further step. I hope you have understand what is product specification. It is nothing but preparing a complete list of a product requirements. Complete list. You remember this. Okay. Now what is next? Next is nothing but a selection of mechanism. Now as I said that select synthesis is the word which means selection of mechanism. Now obviously you are designing some individual component, right? Designing some individual machine element. You have to select some mechanism. So the most valuable and challenging step, we call it in the designing, the most valuable and challenging step is nothing but the selection of mechanism. I will help you to understand with the help of an example. Okay. So basically, a designer or an engineer, if he will prepare some rough sketches of mechanism, okay, he will not directly produce the mechanism, directly manufacture the mechanism. He will first prepare the rough sketches. Okay, these rough sketches will give the desired motion and form the basic model, right? And then he will go for the next step. For example, let us say designing of a blanking press. Now this is you can say a blanking press which you have already studied in the production process. Now let us say you have to design this. Okay. Now you let us say you want to design and manufacture this piercing punch as well as this blanking punch. Okay. Now whenever you want to design and manufacture this, obviously it will have some motion. Let us say it will have some relative motion. So to incorporate that motion, to get that output result, output motion, you should decide some mechanism. So let us say, let us understand what can be the mechanism for this. Okay. The first mechanism is, let us say, crank and connecting rod mechanism. Okay. So you can use the now this is the basic thing which you have already studied. You know what is crank and connecting rod mechanism. So let us say you are using a crank and connecting rod mechanism. So this mechanism will convert the rotary motion of an electric motor into the reciprocating punch motion of the punch, because this punch will reciprocate. Once this punch will reciprocate, obviously it will have impact on this required impact on this workpiece, and this workpiece will get connected with this blanking punch, and you will get, let us say, this required piece, right? So to get this required piece, you should have some motion. So that motion is provided by crank and connecting rod. Secondly, you can use nut and screw mechanism, which is simple and cheap but poor efficiency. Okay, nut and screw mechanism is simple and cheap as compared to the crank and connecting rod, but it is having poor efficiency. Okay, so this is the second option you have. What is the third option we have? The third option you have mechanism consisting of hydraulic cylinder, piston, and valves, which is highly efficient but costly. Now, my dear students, while selecting a mechanism, you have three options: tank and connecting rod mechanism, nut and screw mechanism, mechanism consisting of a hydraulic cylinder. Now this second one is having a poor efficiency but slightly simple and cheap. Okay, so let us say you will not go for this. This mechanism consisting of hydraulic cylinder is having highly efficient but costly. So let us say you will not go for this. So I will go for the crank and connecting rod mechanism. So which is not so costly and it is giving me the required result. It is also having a required efficiency. So this is how you have to think. You have to think cost wise also, you have to think efficiency wise also, and you have to get the work done. I hope you understand this. So this process is called as a selection of mechanism. Is it clear? So how designer will select best possible mechanism? So best possible mechanism from this point number one, point number two, point number three, as I said that, how will you select? So availability of the standard parts and raw materials, availability of the standard manufacturing process and cost competitiveness. So whether the raw materials, standard parts are available, as I said that always we should go for the standard parts which are manufactured by some standard companies, which saves our time and the cost and the design process also. Then whether there is a availability of the standard manufacturing process and whether it is a cost competitiveness. Okay. So considering this all these three factors, I will go for the crank and connecting rod. For example, let us say for a specific application. For some application, you may go for this also, you may go for this also. Okay, so as an engineer, you have to decide. Now next is layout. Now what is layout or the configuration? Now let us say this is the layout. Okay, the third step is nothing but a layout. Layout is preparing a general block diagram. Try to understand this. A block diagram which shows the general layout of the selected configuration. It's not the actual, you can say, the model. It's just a layout. Which will, it's like a block diagram which will help you to understand what are the components, what is the workflow. It will help you to understand what is a workflow and what are the components. Okay, so for example, I have highlighted some points. Let us take an example of this electrically operated overhead traveling crane, that is EOT. So in the design of mechanical systems, you will study the design of EOT crane components. Okay, so basically, in this particular block diagram, the designer specifies, for example, the joining methods like bolting, welding, riveting. Then the rough sketches of the individual parts are prepared. Okay, so it's a complete block diagram. Let us understand with the example. Okay, so in this particular example, that is a EOT crane. So what you can see, we have an electric motor for the power supply, right? Then what is next? We have a flexible coupling which connects the motor shaft to the clutch shaft, right? Then we have a clutch to connect or disconnect the electric motor. Then we have a gearbox to reduce the speed. Then we have a rope drum to convert rotary motion of the shaft to the linear motion of the wire rope. Okay, so all components I have shown here. You can see in this. You can see in this figure. All the components I have shown here. Okay, so this is nothing but the rope, right? So all these components which are shown on this particular block diagram, it is called as a layout of configuration. Okay, wire rope and pulley with a crane hook to attach the load. Okay, so I hope you have understand this. Okay, so this particular block diagram where you can understand what are all the components is nothing but the layout of configuration. Okay, so this is the third step you have to prepare, right? Which is also called as a general layout. It's a general layout. Okay. Now, once you finish with this process, what is the next? Designing of individual component. Now, this is the very important point, and you can say the most important step. That is the fourth step. This I will discuss in the detail in the next slides. Okay. So, designing of individual component. So, exactly there are maybe 5 to 6 steps in this step number 4. That is the designing of individual components. Okay. So, this I will discuss in the detail. Okay, but just try to understand that in this step number 4, we are designing the each and individual component. Or let us say, you can take this example of this EOT here. So each and every component will design or select electrical motor. We will select the selection of material. We will design flexible coupling. We will design clutch. We will design a gearbox. We will design a rope drum. We will design a wire loop and pulley. Then brake. So all these components individually I will design and then it will create a EOT crane. Okay, so this is your fourth step. So whatever the components you are mentioning in this general layout, which general layout? This general layout. Now some components you will directly purchase from the standard companies. Some components you will design, some components, and for some cases you will just select the components, like selection of materials which are readily available in the market. So it's not like you are going to design each and every component. Okay, I hope you understand. Next, and finally, once you have done this preparation of drawing, so finally, this is the preparation of drawing means what? This is the last step to prepare the drawings of assembly and the individual component. So you will create a drawing of assembly as well as the individual components. So as we have studied in the second year, there is a machine drawing. So you have to create. Nowadays we have a software like SolidWorks, CATIA. So you are creating everything in that software nowadays. Okay. So this final drawing, preparation of the drawing, will go where it will go to the production department. And now the production department, which is getting this drawing, is nothing but a final approved design drawing. Okay. So everything, material, tolerances, surface finish, grades, machining symbol, everything is specified in this drawing. So the production engineer will understand that what material has to be taken, what are the tolerances to be kept, what is the surface finish to be placed, what are the grades, what are the symbols. Okay. So let us say this. Let us take an example of this drawing. Let us take an example of this drawing. So this drawing is for the example of a knuckle joint. Okay, this drawing is example of a knuckle joint. Now this knuckle joint, let us say the production department has to manufacture. So according to this drawing, according to the dimensions and all the things mentioned by the designer, the production department, and the manufacturer. Now most important part, see, the designer, along with this drawing, he will also prepare a two list. Now, as I said, that the point number one, that is the production specification. So, along with this preparation of the drawing, the production specification, all the list will be also given to the production engineer or the department. So, basically, this list has two components. The first is the standard component. The standard component is what? The component which can be purchased directly from the market. For example, let us say escape bearings, okay, or let us say oil seals, okay. Let us say some clutch plates, okay. So some components are already available. You can directly purchase from the market depending upon the application. And secondly, a special component which has to be machined in the factory. Some components, depending upon the design and the drawing, it has to be machined in the factory. I hope it is clear to all of you, right? So prototype model is prepared for the product and tested before finalizing the assembly line. Now try to understand that the production department or the engineer will not directly go for the manufacturing of the product. The- Along with the design department and the production department, planning department, they will first of all prepare the prototype model. Then they will test it, and if they are getting a successful result, successful output, good efficiency, everything is in the proper manner, they will finalize this assembly drawing, and then they will go for the manufacturing of a particular component. I hope it is clear to all of you. Okay. Now, so these are the five basic steps which I have explained. Okay. Now let us move to the next point. Introduction to the machine design. So as I said that this is your particular syllabus, we are going to design the individual components. So remember the fourth step. This fourth step. What is the fourth step? I said designing of individual component. Okay. So now we will discuss this fourth step in a detail. So first of all, as I said that machine consists of number of machine elements, right? So each part of the machine which has a motion with respect to some other part is called as a machine element. So what is machine elements? Machine consists of number of machine elements, and each part of the machine which has motion with respect to some other part is called as a machine element. You can take an example of the IC engine. IC engine is a machine. So let us take an example of a crank, connecting rod, piston. You can take an example of a valves. You can take an example of a crankshaft. Okay. So all these components are called as the machine elements which are having some relative motion with respect to another. Maybe it is a reciprocating motion, maybe it is a rotating motion. So these all individual components we have to design. That is, you have to design a piston, you have to design a crank, you have to design a connecting rod. I hope you understand. So basically now, how will you classify this before going to the design? So classify into the two groups, general purpose. Now general purpose is a group which is used in large number of machines. A general purpose. General purpose means what? These are the machine elements which are having a high demand. They are used in the large number of machines. Almost these are the common. This general purpose is a set of common elements. Is a set of common elements. Try to understand this. Okay. Is it clear? Okay. So let me give you some example. You have to understand some example. So using large number of machines, like let us take an example coupling. So in the model number 3, we'll understand the design of couplings, shaft. In model number 6, we'll understand the design of clutches. Model number 4, you'll understand the bearings. Model number 6, we'll understand the springs. Gears we'll understand in the next semester, and machine frames in the maybe in the next semester. So all this comes under the general purpose. And next is a special purpose. Now, special purpose are used in some specific applications which requires a high precision manufacturing and a high-end, high user-end design. So pistons, walls, or spindles. This comes under the special purpose. Okay. Now, machine element may also consist of several parts manufactured separately. Now, guys, try to understand that. Let us take an example of the IC engine. Now in IC engine, let us say you have a component, a crankshaft. Machine element is a crankshaft. Now this crankshaft will have again sub parts which are manufactured separately. For example, this crankshaft will have bearing, which are also called as the crankshaft bearings. Then this crankshaft will have a shaft. Okay. The again this crankshaft will have some again rolling elements, right? So again this sub part of this machine element of or we can call it as a crankshaft, there is a bearings and all and shaft. They are again manufactured also separately. Okay, so let us understand this. So rolling contact bearings in model number 4, you will understand the design of this rolling contact bearing is a machine element. Okay, this rolling contact bearing is a machine element which is having again a sub part. What are the sub parts? It will have an inner race, it will have an outer cage, it will have a balls. Is it clear? You can take an example of this. So this is called, this is nothing but a shield. This is inner race. These are nothing but the rolling elements, or you can call it as a balls. This is nothing but a retainer or cage. Okay, and this is nothing but the outer race. So these are manufactured separately, and then they are assembled together, and it will become a rolling contact bearing. The famous one is nothing but the escape bearings. The escape company is normally manufacturing all these components. So I hope you have understand till now what is the process of. This is the basic area which you need to understand. Then and then you will understand the design part. Okay. So let us understand some more examples. Springs. Okay, so coil springs are there, universal joints. Okay, then some you can say some bearings. Okay, these are nothing some bolts and screws. Okay, so these are some machine elements: springs, fasteners, bearings, shafts, and gears. Okay, so these all comes under the machine element which we have to design as an individual component. Is it clear? Message me yes or no. Now, guys, once you understand what are the once you understand the introduction to the machine element, let us understand what are the basic requirements of this machine element. Okay. So whenever you as an engineer, you as a designer decides to design a machine element, a particular machine element, let us take an example of a bearings also. Okay. Same example we will carry forward. So what is the first thing which should come in your mind? What is the first thing which should come into your mind is that the objective, the main objective. The main objective of designing a machine element is to ensure that it preserves, okay, I will highlight again, it preserves its operating capacity during the stipulated service life with minimum manufacturing cost. Okay, so let us say you are designing a bearing. Okay, so this bearing should preserve means what should have work under its full efficiency, that is the full operating capacity. It should work under its full operating capacity for a prescribed, I am writing here, for a prescribed service life, and that to with the minimum manufacturing cost as well as the maintenance cost. So let us say if you are designing a bearing and it is, you can say, able to work maybe 1 or 2 months, or maybe you have to replace it after 2 3 months. That is not okay with you. You have to specify, you have, it should work under the prescribed service life. It should have a good life cycle. So in case of the rolling elements, that is a bearing, the life cycle is very, very important. I hope you understand this. Okay. So To fulfill above objectives, the machine element should fulfill the following basic requirements. So what are the basic requirements? I will not go into the detail. Okay, just try to understand. So strength. Okay, the first and important, the machine. What do you understand by the strain? The machine part should not fail under the effect of the forces that is acting on it. Okay, means what? It should have sufficient strain to avoid the failure. We will discuss what are the different types of failure, like a fracture failure or failure due to the general yielding. Okay, so this is nothing but a strain. It should have sufficient strength to avoid the failures. Then rigidity, right? Then machine component should be rigid. Should be rigid means what? It should not deflect or bend too much due to the forces or movements acting on it. Okay. Try to understand my dialogue. I am explaining in the short because it is not so important. Okay, but also important. Okay, machine component should be rigid so that it should not deflect or bend too much under the action of the forces of the movement. Okay, basically you can take an example of a transmission shaft. Okay, a transmission shaft is designed on the basis of its rigidity. Okay, we will understand at the design of shaft. A transmission shaft, a shaft using the gearbox is based on the design is based on its rigidity. Then bearing resistance, right? Okay. See, bearing is the main reason for putting the machine part out of the order. Wear, mainly because of the friction, is the main reason putting the machine part out of the order. Okay, means what? It reduces the useful life of the component. Wear reduces the useful life of the component. Okay, so there are a lot of types of wear like abrasive wear, corrosive wear, fitting wear. Okay, so you can take an example of the gears and cams. Okay, you can take an example of the gears and cams where this wear is, you can say the wear is large. You have to take care there. Okay, so there is one method called as the surface hardening. You have studied this maybe, surface hardening. Now this surface hardening normally increases the wear resistance. Okay, so that is why most of the component where wear resistance is where wear is more, wear formation is more, the surface hardening is done. Okay, I will not go into the detail much. Next, next is what is next? Minimum dimensions and weight. Now you know that nowadays, if you are using a minimum dimensions, it will reduce the weight and obviously it will affect the cost also, right? So how you can justify this? You can say that a machine part should be sufficiently strong, rigid, and wear resistance. How you can justify this core statement? A machine part should be sufficiently strong, rigid, and wear resistance, and at the same time, it should have minimum possible dimensions and weight. I hope you have understand this. Okay. So what will happen? It will result into the minimum material cost. If you are having a minimum dimensions and minimum weight, it will reduce the material cost. Okay. Then manufacturability. What is manufacturability? Can anyone define what is manufacturability? Manufacturability is the ease of fabrication and assembly. Okay. So guys, how will you ease your manufacturing process? By selecting the proper shape. Okay. So you should select or you should design or you can say design a proper shape of a component in such a way that it will ease the if the shape is very complex, it will increase the manufacturability cost. Okay, then safety. Okay, safety of what? Safety of operator, safety of user is very important. Then conformance to standard. Now a machine part which you are designing or manufacturing should conform to the national or international standards, like in terms of profile, dimensions, grade, material. There are some standards which we'll be discussing in the later part. IS standards and all. Okay. Then reliability. What is reliability? Reliability is the probability. Basically, what is reliability? It is a probability that machine part will perform its intended function under desired operating condition over a specific period of time. I am repeating, reliability is a probability because you cannot be 100% reliable. Reliability is never 100% because it is a probability that a machine part will perform its function under some desired operating condition, and it will work or function satisfactorily over a lifetime, some period of lifetime. Okay. Then maintainability. Okay. Maintainability comes under the you can say service or maintenance. Okay. If any component, any machine part undergoes a regular maintenance, it will not stand into the market. And minimum life cycle cost. Life cycle cost. First of all, try to understand what is life cycle cost. Life cycle cost of any machine part is the total cost to be paid by the purchaser. Life cycle cost is the total cost which is paid by the customer or the purchaser for purchasing that particular part or machine and operating and maintaining it over a lifespan. So this life cycle cost has to be beared by the customer or the purchaser. So obviously, if he is getting the desired, you can say the component in a less cost, he will obviously prefer that. So this, all these 10 points are very, very important which I have discussed. I hope you have understand this. Okay. So now, as I said that design of machine element is the fourth and important step in the machine design. We have understand the 5 steps. What are the 5 steps? After product specification, what was the next step we have seen? Selection of mechanism. The third step is layout of configuration, and the fourth step is this design of machine element, and fifth stage is nothing but a preparation drawing. Now, as promised you, we will discuss in detail design of machine element, which is the most important part or the actual part of your syllabus. Now, let us take an example to understand this. Okay. Now, the first step is nothing but a function specification. What is the first step in your design of element? The function specification. Means what? Any design of a machine element begins with the specification of the function of the element. You have to specify the function. Unless and until you are specifying the function, how will you select the components? How will you design the machine elements? Okay. The first step is function specification. I will give you the example. You understand? Bearings. Okay. Now, if you are not knowing the function of bearings, then how will you select? How will you understand that, Baba? Let us say I have to select the bearing for this. Okay. So when you will select the bearings, when you are designing a shaft or some rotating shaft. So what is a bearing? Bearing supports the rotating shaft and confines its motion. In case of the design of a shaft, you have to select a bearing. Next is key. Now, when you will select the key, when you are knowing the function of the key, what is the function of key? Transmit torque between the shaft and the adjoining machine part like gear, pulley, sprocket. See, guys, try to understand that. From the model number 2, I will directly start designing key, designing bearing, designing gear boxes and all. Okay. So at that time, you have to understand all the theoretical part, which so that is why I have taken 3 to 4 lectures, because then you should not ask what is the function of key and what is the bearing. Now try to understand. So when you will use the key, when you have to transmit the torque, okay, transmit the torque between the shaft and the adjoining machine part. Let us say this is a transmission shaft and you have to mount a gear. So you have to use the key between the gear and the shaft, or you have to use the key between the shaft and the pulley or the sprocket. I hope you understand this. Okay. Power screw. Now power screw. The best example of the power screw is a screw jack. What is a screw jack? Everybody drives the four-wheeler. So let us say your tire gets punctured. What you will do? Are you able to lift the whole vehicle? No. You have to lift that specific tire, specific wheel, with the help of a power screw. So power screw is a very, very important design we'll also study. So it produces the uniform and slow motion and transmits the forces. Okay. Next is screw fastening. Hold 2 or more machine part together. Now the screw fastenings are very, very important. Why these screw fastenings are very, very important? Because each and every machine will require this. That is, you can it comes under the riveting. You can take an example of a bolted joints, riveted joints. Okay, so all comes under the screw fastening. Spring in the clock. This is used to store and release the energy. Okay, so this is called as a function specification. I hope you understand this. Okay. Now, what is the next step, guys? What is next step? See, when I will start the design from the model number 2, I will start in this way. The first step, We'll understand the function specification, accordingly select the components, and then next step is determining the forces. What is determination of forces? Determination of forces means what? Basically, sorry, move on to the slide. So we were at the step number 2, I guess. There's a disturbance. Yeah. So we were discussing about the determination of the forces. So obviously to determine the number, obviously you have to determine what are the loading conditions, what are the forces acting on the particle, because then only we will do the stress analysis. Na? So for that, this concept, free body diagram which you have learned starting from the mechanics, okay, is constructed to determine the forces acting on the different parts of the machine. Right? The first and the basic step, free body diagram. Okay. Now, this force acting on the machine part is either assumed to be concentrated at some point in the machine or distributed over a particular point. So this also you have studied in the strength of material, that is whether it is a point load or whether it is a uniformly distributed load or whether it is a uniformly varying load. Try to understand this. Distribution, for example, this is a circular shaft. Okay, you have to draw, you have to understand how is the distribution of the forces. Okay, how is the distribution of forces on acting on this particular shaft? Whether that forces are acting at some concentrated point, whether that forces is distributed over a particular area uniformly or something. Okay, so these already you have studied in the engineering mechanics and this you have studied in the song, right? So this concept we'll be using here. Next is some of the internal and external forces acting on the machine elements are as follows. So just this is the example to make this concept clear and give you some example. Okay. So let us say what are the forces, just to understand. Let's take an example. External force due to the energy, power or torque transmission by the machine part, often called as a useful load. So external forces, that is the energy, power, torque transmission. So this comes under the category of the external forces. Okay. Uh, then static forces. Static forces are nothing but the forces which are acting on any machine part due to the dead weight. Then force due to the frictional resistances. Centrifugal force, they have already studied in the dynamics unit, which change in the direction of due to the change in the direction of velocity. Due to the change in direction of the velocity. Centrifugal force, which always act away from the center of rotation. What else? Inertia force due to the change in linear or angular velocity. Inertia force. So see, then force due to thermal gradient or variation in the temperature. Force set up during manufacturing part resulting in the residual stresses. Okay, guys, there are a number of forces. Depending upon the application, you have to understand. First of all, you have to understand what are the different external forces, static forces, frictional forces, centrifugal forces, inertia forces, thermal forces, temperature forces, and residual stresses. Because of the manufacturing, because you know that manufacturing cannot be 100% accurate. Some manufacturing defect will always remain, which creates a residual stresses. For example, we'll be understanding the manufacturing considerations. Okay, during casting, during forging, so some defects will remain. So, guys, I hope you have understand. This is the next step, which is further step. Okay, now very important part, which I will explain you how to select the material from the PhD. Okay, how to select the material from the PhD design data book. So, first of all, let us understand what are the factors considered in selecting the material. So basically 4 factors. How many factors? 4 factors. Availability, cost, mechanical properties and manufacturing considerations. So based on these 4 factors, we have to select the material as an engineer. Let us elaborate this one by one. Availability. Example. Let us understand with the help of the example. Okay. Because you understand the meaning. The material is available, okay, you can select. Cost will be less. Mechanical properties are important and manufacturing considerations we will discuss later on. Okay. For example, let us take an example of you have to design a flywheel from a housing of gearbox. Or you can say engines. Now we know that this component flywheel, housing of gearbox, engine have a complex shape. Now, since it is having a complex shape, which is the best suitable manufacturing method? The casting. Okay, because casting is used to manufacture a product or a component which is having a complex shape, right? Because this that is why for casting, which material will select cast iron. Okay, so now based on this, considering the application, that is considering the shape, we have selected a cast iron. So obviously, when you select you have to design or manufacture flywheel, housing of gearbox engine. Engine means what? Housing of engine. Okay, where the piston is placed, right? So that is basically made of a cast iron because casting produces a complicated shape without involving machining parts. No need to undergo the machining process. I hope you understand this. Next, transmission shaft. Now let us say you have to design I mean, we will design everything. Don't worry. Just I'm trying to explain. Transmission shafts are made up of plain carbon steel. Now, why you are selecting a plain carbon steel? Because they are available in form of rods and have higher strength. Okay, so this first is related to this manufacturing consideration, and the second example is related to the availability, cost, as well as the manufacturing properties, mechanical properties, right? So you know that transmission shaft is in rotating element. So obviously, if these plain carbon steels are available in the form of rods and are having higher strength, you will select the transmission shaft. Okay. Next, let us take one more example of an automobile body and a wood. Wood means what? The upper body, automobile upper body. Okay. Now these are specifically made of a low carbon steel. Now you say, sir, why to select the low carbon steel? Very easy, because the cold formability is essential to press the part. These low carbon steels are having a property called as a formidability, which is essential because this pressing, because we have to do the pressing operations, we have to create the pressing part because you have to create a sheet. You have to create the sheets for the automobile body, right? So this property is very, very important. Next, really sorry, we'll finish off this fast. What is the next example? I'll move on to you. Uh, What is the next example? Next example is free cutting steel. Now, this free cutting steel have excellent machinability, right? Free cutting steels are having an excellent machinability. So obviously, they are suitable for bolts and stud. So whenever you are manufacturing or designing a bolts and stud, you will select a free cutting steel because they can be easily machined for the thread purpose. Because you know that you have to do the threading on the bolts, right? So accordingly, you have to select the material. Next, crankshaft and connecting rod are subjected to the fluctuating forces. So what you will do? What? So you will use the NiCr, that is a nickel and chromium material. Okay, because why you want to select Ni and Cr for the crankshaft and the connecting rod? Because this component, which component? Crankshaft and the, I'm writing here, crankshaft and the connecting rod are subjected to the fluctuating forces. So fluctuating forces means what? It will have a fatigue failure. We will discuss this in the module number 3. That is a dynamic loading condition. So basically, this component should have high. It should have higher fatigue. What it should have? It should have a higher fatigue strain because it is subjected to the dynamic condition, that is a fluctuating stresses or varying stresses. I hope it is clear to all of you. So this is how you have to select the material. Here, so this is nothing but the third step in the design of machine element. The first step is the specification of function. Second is the determination of forces, and third is the selection of material. Okay. So guys, I hope you have understand this. So without explaining the theoretical part, I have explained the example. So from this example, you might have now understand that how to select the material, what is the process. And next is failure criteria. Very important. How the component will fail. Failure criteria. Okay. The first is failure by elastic deflection. Now, which component will fail due to the elastic deflection? That you have to first of all understand. So transmission shaft. Now in transmission shaft, the maximum force acting on the shaft is limited by the permissible elastic deflection. What is the maximum force that transmission shaft will take? Let us say transmission shaft means what? A gearbox shaft. Obviously, we have a gearbox. Inside the gearbox is assembly of gears, transmission shaft, okay, lay shaft, counter shaft, and the neutral shaft. So, a number of shaft, three shafts are used in the gearbox. Okay. So, what is the maximum force that shaft will sustain? So that is limited by the permissible elastic deflection. So you have to design the shaft based on the elastic deflection criteria, not any other criteria. Second is failure by general yielding. Now you will not design this transmission shaft based on the general yielding, but the mechanical components which are made up of ductile material. Ductile material you understand, you have already studied the strength of material. So mechanical components which are made up of the ductile materials, they will lose its usefulness due to the large amount of plastic deformation after the yield point stress is reached. You know now what is yielding. Once you are getting, you have already studied the stress strain curve for the ductile and the brittle material, right? So you know there is a point called the yield point. So once that yield point stress is reached, okay, this ductile material loses its large amount of usefulness because of the large amount of the plastic deformation. Okay, so that is why the components which are made up of a ductile material, what will be the failure criteria? General yielding. I have to understand this. Third criteria is failure by fracture. So obviously it is related to the brittle material. Now you know that the brittle materials like cast iron fails because of the sudden fracture without any plastic deformation. So what will be the failure criteria for the brittle material? So now you might have understand that you have to understand what is the failure criteria for the partition. So let us say you are designing a transmission shaft. In your mind, yeah, you know that elastic deflection is a failure criteria. So you will design accordingly. Okay, ductile material, let us say knuckle joint, quarter joint, okay. General yielding is there is a yielding stress. So you will design on the basis of the yield stress. Okay, you will design on the basis of the yield stress because failure is due to the general yielding. Let us say brittle material, cast iron, any component made up of cast iron, as I said, the flywheel or maybe gearbox housing or maybe engine housing, it's a fact. The failure is due to the fracture. Okay, so you have to design it on the base of the ultimate tensile strength, right? So whether you are designing on the base of the ultimate tensile strength or based on the yield strength, so normally you will understand we are denoting as a SYT. SYT is the yield stress and SUT is the ultimate tensile strength. So SYT is basically used for the ductile material and SUT is basically used for the SUT is basically used for the what it is used for the brittle material. Okay, I hope you understand this. Is it clear? Okay, so in the next lecture we'll understand. Uh, Let me finish this example. So, for example, gear foot failure, fitting, rolling element bearings, fatigue cracks, sliding contact bearings, corrosion, and abrasive wear. So, these are some you can say the failure criteria for some more. For example, other than this, other than three, right? So, I hope you have understand this. And the last step is nothing but the determination of shape and dimensions. We will discuss into the next lecture.